In this next video, we want to talk about search engine algorithms, what they are, kind of how they work, and really start to understand the basics of how search engines work. So every search engine has some kind of an algorithm. Okay, well, what's an algorithm? An algorithm is actually a mathematical equation that's really more of a process, kind of a looping equation that is designed to figure things out as it goes through. And so it's a process to determine an answer. It includes different factors into the algorithm. So there's parts and pieces that are actually weighted differently. So if we're talking about a search engine algorithm, they might say, how many likes on Facebook does this particular company have? And do we care about that? So, back in 2012, being liked on Facebook was actually a pretty big social signal. So a lot of companies were trying to get more and more likes. And if one dentist office and down the street another dentist office have different likes on Facebook, it's possible that the algorithm could have picked up on that, and it would have had a factor called Facebook likes that was weighted very heavily in 2012 that said whoever had the most likes is going to rank higher on the search engine. Now, of course, the Facebook like has become something very superficial, and many of us don't really care about it anymore, so it's not really the currency. And so today, if that even is a factor in the algorithm, it would be a very, very small factor. And so factors will kind of change over time, but for the most part, Google's trying to get the most relevant, most authoritative, best, fastest, highest quality websites at the top of the search engine. Now, those categories that I just mentioned, best, fastest, content, all of those different topics are really broad topics, and within those there's lots of different factors, 400, 500, 1,000 different factors that could be evaluated every time a website is crawled and evaluated for ranking. So no search engine is ever going to disclose their algorithm. They're not just going to come out and tell us exactly what they're looking at, because then we will try to exploit that and trying to get the rankings to really be more optimized for us and not necessarily what's best for the public. And so search engines feel like they need to keep the algorithm private, so they never tell us. But there's still a lot of companies and programmers that do work to try to exploit the algorithm. And honestly, in the early days of the internet, early days of search engine optimization, you could do that in a lot of ways, and it was very profitable. It was very lucrative to exploit the search engine algorithm, but it's kind of like a boat with holes where water is leaking. As they plug those holes and they patch them, there's really not that problem anymore. And so it's very difficult to find areas of the algorithm to exploit. And so a better strategy, really a more useful long-term strategy, is just to build the best type of website, the best based on the factors that you can discover, and keep doing things that are going to make your site raise up for the long term, which is building your brand and getting more name recognition and building out good content for people to look at. And, if you asked Google, if you could sit down with Google as a person, they would say, well, the best company is going to rank the highest. But the truth is the best company that also understands the algorithm and is optimizing toward what they know is important, that's really who's going to be at the top of the pile. So the first step really is understanding those factors, which we talk about here in future videos. Now, just to kind of introduce those ranking factors, what they basically are is they are parts and pieces of the website or the web page that are looked at in order to determine whether a site is relevant or good. And so we call those ranking factors. These ranking factors are based on a few main concepts. So they're based on, first, relevance. Is the page relevant to what a searcher is looking for? So if I'm looking for information on, maybe science, maybe I'm looking at some kind of physics and I want questions answered, I want to be served up a list of physics websites or web pages on physics. We don't want some random cartoons website to pop up in the middle of our physics question. And so we want everything to be very relevant. We also want it to be quality. We don't want just superficial content. Now, not having any content on a page is bad quality, or having the wrong kind of content on a page is bad quality, or maybe poor grammar, poor organization. All of those lead to bad quality. So we want good quality on our web pages. Google also looks at authority. Is the information coming from an authoritative person or source? So a person can be authoritative, and a company or a website can be authoritative as well. And so that's always a concern, is we want to make sure that our information is coming from something that is authoritative. Now, for an authoritative person, that might be somebody with a big following on LinkedIn or Instagram or one of the social networks. And it might be somebody, maybe that person's a newscaster and their name is a big name. Or maybe they're a sports person. Maybe they've coached a sports team. Or maybe they work in an industry, like in a science vertical, and they're the guy that understands this particular concept in physics. And Google knows if they're authoritative because they can see publications, they can see, references and citations. And so there's different criteria depending on who you are and where you are for how authoritative you are. And all of that plays into the authoritativeness of the person. And then a lot of times a company's authoritativeness really comes from how long they've been established, who they're related to. In one of the future videos, we talk about links from one site to another. That can add to the authority. Or if there's a bunch of authoritative people that are associated to an organization and have been for a long time, then that might add credibility. So authority is a really big topic as well. And then kind of the last area we look at is popularity. Is the information that we're getting, is it the most popular information? Meaning, is it shared a lot? Do people look at it? Do people consume it? Do people come back to it as a resource? You probably have a website that you've used in the past to answer some question or problem. And when you have that question or problem again, you can go back to that website. Well, Google's always going to rank those sites higher that people return to all the time. So we want to look at popularity as one of the big areas for factors. So I just looked at a quick website, and I want to show you a couple of things, because as I'm talking about these factors and ranking factors, which we go deeper into in future videos, but as I'm talking about these, it's important that you kind of understand what the algorithm sees when it looks at a web page. So this is a web page for a restaurant called Tony Baloney's. I just thought that'd be funny. It's actually a really big pizza sandwich shop, Hoboken, New Jersey. And so this Tony Baloney's in Hoboken. I've eaten there. It's really good. This is just a screenshot of their homepage, and this was the current homepage when I filmed this video. So what are the things that Google would look at on this web page to decide if this is relevant, authoritative, if it's popular, all these things that we just talked about. So Google would go through and crawl the page and would actually read the information. So here's a couple, let me just zoom in here. Here's a couple of things that they look at. So first of all, up in the top of the tab. So we all have these tabs in our browsers, and very rarely do we actually read that information at the top of the tab. But if I zoom in here, do you see it says Tony Baloney's, and then there's a bar, and it says nationwide, and then the rest of it's cut off. But what I did here is I left my mouse over top of this, and it popped up the entire what we call HTML title, and we'll talk more about those. So it says Tony Baloney's, nationwide delivery, home of the taco pizza. So this is the masthead. This is what they've put on the website as their information for everybody that comes to the site. Now I'm going to back up. When I get rid of that zoomed in view, where is this on the web page? Where does it say home of the taco pizza? I mean, this is a pizza with a bunch of fried eggs on it. They do some pretty wild pizzas at this place. But where is this information? Home of the taco pizza, nationwide delivery. So they deliver nationwide. They have these taco pizzas. I mean, it's information that's important enough that their web developer put it right in the HTML title. But see, only Google looks at that title. We don't really look at that as consumers. What we see, the first thing we see is Tony Baloney's, their big logo, their big masthead right there. So first thing Google looks at on a web page is what has the developer put in as the title, the HTML title of the page. Now, what a lot of you might not know is that this actual title, I'll zoom in again, this is going to show up on Google as the top of their listing. So if you want to take a swing at this, pause the video, go to Google and type in Tony Baloney's Pizzeria, right? Or Tony Baloney's Pizza, and see if you can pull the listing up for this site. And it should say Tony Baloney's nationwide delivery, home of the taco pizza, right on their homepage on Google. Then below it will be 2 lines of text, which is what we call the description or meta description. And we'll talk about those a little more later as well. But as far as the information that's on this page, the first thing that somebody really sees is just the logo, Tony Baloney's. Now, this confirms to the user that, yeah, we're on this web page. Now, it's really good if you're searching for the actual brand. We call this a branded search term. But if we're actually searching for a term, pizzeria near me, or pizza place, or pizza delivery, I mean, any of those things we would type into a search engine, it doesn't really say a lot of that on this page. And so if I was going to optimize this page, I might have some additional text on here that says, local pizzeria in New Jersey, and that we actually say some more specifics higher up on the page. Now, as we keep going down the page, we will see some information about where they are, but the next part of this are links. Now, the navigation are links to other pages on the site. Google looks at these links very seriously. If something is in your navigation and is important enough for you to link to it in other pages, Google wants to know what those topics are. So order now, that would obviously be the ordering area, the menu, the taco pizza, about us, their truck, their catering, virtual classes, ship food, and then shop. I couldn't read that very well, sorry. So taco pizza is right up at the very top. So think about this for a minute. We've mentioned taco pizza in the HTML title. We've said Tony Baloney's, and then we've got a link to taco pizza. I'll bet you if you're sitting in Hoboken and you type in taco pizza, or maybe you can try this one as well. Just type in taco pizza Hoboken. Now, I've not done this, but I bet if you pause the video and search this, it's going to probably pull up Tony Baloney's. Why is it doing that? Well, we've mentioned taco pizza in the HTML title. We've mentioned it on the links. This site is about taco pizza. That's one of the big topics here. And then the next area that it shows, the image. Okay, well, what does Google do with the images? Well, if it's got an image and the image is just named 001.jpg, that doesn't really help us out much. But if somebody takes the time and says, this is an image of, and I don't know what they call this pizza, but whatever the name of this particular pizza is, should be, let's call it the fried egg pizza. So if it says fried egg pizza.jpg, now Google knows this is the fried egg pizza. And if we put a description in with the image, there's a description that you call an alt text. It's alternative text to describe the image. If we put an alt text in there that also says fried egg pizza, then Google's going to clearly know that this is a picture of fried egg pizza. Now, let's say that that was taco pizza on the homepage, which this was actually a rotating homepage, so I'm sure the taco pizza probably popped up here. Let's say that taco pizza is on the homepage, and they did a good job and said tacopizza.jpg as the name of that image, and then they put alt text that said taco pizza. Well, now you've got 4 places already just in the first bit of the homepage that confirm that they have the taco pizza. Can you see how relevance is calculated, and also authority, especially if nobody else has been talking about taco pizza as much as they have? Pretty much if you type in taco pizza, they'll be the main answer to that question. And then the last place I want to show you on this page, all the way there at the bottom, it says Hoboken. So if I'm in Hoboken and I type in pizzeria near me, Google can see that there is actually a Hoboken location, can look at where I'm at, and can serve up that result. Now, a good thing to do down there is also have a link to your Google Maps. Not the actual Google Map, but a link to where you are on Google Maps. And Google will crawl that link and see that you're on Google Maps. That helps them know where you are. But also having a Google My Business profile where your business is set up on Google and you're getting reviews and you're posting pictures and you're commenting. So that all helps with kind of the location stuff. And we talk about that more in our local search course. But I wanted to point out these areas that the search engine literally looks at to understand the relevance and understand what your page is about. Okay, so you've got to know that when you are searching that your results are individual and they're always changing. Well, what do I mean by that? So if I'm using my phone, so here's my phone, and I'm doing searches on my phone, Google knows my IP address, they know my device ID, they know who I am in terms of my phone, and they provide results that I want to see. Well, how do they do that? Well, if you have a Gmail account and you are logged into Google Chrome, your searches are being tracked. Now, some of us that makes us uncomfortable, but the truth is if you're on Gmail, everything you do is being tracked. And so this is part of what Google does, is they look like this big harmless organization, and then behind the scenes they're mining your data, they're selling your data, they're doing a lot of things with your data. So search results are going to be personalized, so logging into Gmail, logging into Microsoft on Bing. It's going to cause your search results to be the results that you look for the most. And so let's say that I was a CPA and I have my own CPA firm with my own website. And let's say that I put my website on the web and then I did searches for my own firm, or I typed in CPA near me. And I always click on my listing, wherever it is, 1, 2, 9, 10, wherever it is, I'm always clicking on my listing. Well, chances are the next time I type in CPA near me, Google is going to serve my CPA firm at the top of the results because it thinks that I'm looking for specifically that CPA firm. So based on what you've clicked in the past, you're going to see different results than other people. The other thing is when you type in near me, or you just type in a search like pizzeria, Google knows that you're not looking for one in California if you're sitting in Hoboken, New Jersey. So based on your location on your computer or on your cell phone, you're going to be geo-targeted in your search results. And what geo-targeted means is targeted to that geographic area that you're looking in. And so you can do a test on that one as well and just type in pizzeria. And you're going to see pizzerias in your local area, not all over the country. And then the next thing is the type of query that you type in is also going to change the entire landscape of the search engine. So if I type in pizza recipe, I'm going to see a bunch of recipe websites. And I'm probably not going to see Google Maps because that doesn't make sense. But if I type in pizzeria, now I'm going to see a Google Maps listing with star ratings, and I'll also have some other organic listings, but the results are going to change based on the type of query that I do. Search engine results pages are also varied by desktop or mobile, so you get different results on your desktop than you get on the mobile. So if everything's tailored to what our history is and everything's geo-targeted, how do we actually figure out what our potential customers that don't search for us on a regular basis are going to see in their search engine? So here's a pro tip. One of the things that we do in digital marketing is we use the Incognito mode of our browser. If you don't know what that is, you can open a new private window in Safari or in Edge and Chrome. It's called Incognito Mode or private mode. And so you can go up to the file menu and you'll see instead of new browser window, there right below it will be new private or new incognito window. Also a quick shortcut in most browsers for Macs, you can do Command Shift N for new. And for PCs, you can do Command or Control Shift N for new, okay? So you can do that shift in there to add in the private browsing. And when you open a private browser, it's going to look a little bit different. So in Chrome, it just gives you kind of this blacked out browser, and then you see this little cartoony guy in the corner. It looks like he's like a private spy. What that does is that erases all of your browsing history. And so you'll be able to see what somebody is going to see that hasn't searched in your industry a lot. Now, it's still going to take into account your IP address, so it's not going to be completely vanilla, but it is going to give you a more normal set of results, if that makes sense. So there's a simple site assessment that I do that helps me know why a website isn't ranking. So if you're wondering just kind of the basics of, is my site ranking or not, and what do I need to improve, go through these 4 questions. So these are 4 simple questions that help you know if your website is going to rank or not. The first one is, can the website be crawled? Can the search engine actually consume what's on your web page? Some websites block the search engine. Some websites are too hard to crawl. And so there's tools out there. There's SEMrush tools. There's a mobile-friendly test tool. There's a page speed tool. We'll talk more about tools in future lectures. But run a tool, figure out if your site's being crawled and if it's being crawled easily. The second question is, when it crawls my content, does my content talk about what I actually do? So let's say you're a basketball website and you sell basketballs and you forgot to say the word basketball on your webpage. This happens all the time where somebody puts up an e-commerce page, has a picture of a basketball, but it's called image.jpg, and they have a price and a discounted price and some reviews. Description says authentic, leather, NCAA approved. but nobody ever says the word basketball. Now, the consumer visually can see it, but Google can't see it. They can't infer what you mean. And so make sure that your content is on the page. It says exactly what you want to say. And then the third question is, are other quality sites out there in my industry, in my vertical, or just quality in general, are they linking to me? Are they pointing at me and saying, hey, this is a really good website? We're going to go into a lot more detail in one of the future videos and talk about sites linking to other sites and kind of how we evaluate that. And then the fourth question is, do people talk about my site? Is my blog popular? Is my site popular? Do people return to my site? So anything that would signify popularity, importance, people are using your website. You can't just build an optimized, awesome website and then put it on an island in the middle of the ocean. It's got to be popular and get traffic, and everybody's got to be there in order for you to rank at the top of the search engine. And so that's a very important factor is, if all your competitors' sites are equal to yours, they're being crawled, they're relevant to their goals, other sites are linking, and everything was equal, Google is going to rank the one that is popular the very highest. And so you want to make sure that you're doing the things on social media, through your blog, through email. You're doing the things that you have to do to get more people to your website, and then that will start to spiral and you'll get more out of the organic rankings. Okay, so in the next video, we're going to talk a little bit more about links and relationships to other sites. So I'll see you there.